this president has been very effective in terms of supporting the agenda for the continent. Mr. Speaker, that parliament has been transformed from the chaos that it used to be before to a platform for exposition of the agenda of Pan-Africanism. Mr. Speaker, we credit him for the work that he has done since his election as President of the Pan-African Parliament. Mr. Speaker, we from Kenya have been pushing and continue to push that Kiswahili be made a major language at the continental level. Right now, Mr. Speaker, we have Arabic language, we have French, English, and Portuguese. But, Mr. Speaker, the Kiswahili language, although accepted, and it's the only African language, really, indigenous language, has not been used properly and to the large extent that is required in the work of that parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to welcome the Honorable President in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, like you said, we have had great engagements with him. He has been also up to the State House and had great engagements with the President. We are very grateful and honored to have him in Kenya today. Mr. Speaker, I join you in welcoming him. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Senators. I will now proceed to discharge the CS Interior. And I've noticed that most of these so-called supplementary questions can actually be posed as substantive questions. So the mere fact that you have not gotten an opportunity to ask your supplementary questions, you still have a window to actually pose your supplementary question as a substantive question to the CS, and it still appear here. So, Honorable CS, thanks for coming. You stand discharged for the day. I will proceed to call Senator for Isiolo, the Honorable Fatuma Dulo, to ask. But before you do that, kindly give us a few minutes as we usher in the responsible CS. Yes, what clarification are you seeking, Senator Chirange?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with you that this is the first time that we are doing this. Mr. Speaker, I don't know, maybe through SBC or your office, understanding order number one, Mr. Speaker, you should have at least allowed us to ask. I know that is behind us, but the point I'm trying to make, Speaker, understanding order number one, I wish the Senate Business Committee, especially when the Minister of Interior is appearing, Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, is it possible to schedule them only during one session? For example, like between, we have amended from 9:30 to 12:30, Mr. Speaker, because security is everything. You and me agree. There is a lot that goes on from the village level to the highest level, Mr. Speaker, and I know the next time, even if some of these questions, Mr. Speaker, as you have noted, that it could be substantive, but again, it could be overtaken by events. Like the issue of banditry in the north, like other issues, what is happening in Shakahola, cult, Mr. Speaker, in your county, and many others, Mr. Speaker. So I call upon, in as much as the standing order number 51-7C, Mr. Speaker, and I also need your interpretation on this because I have realized my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, just allow me quickly as we allow changeover. Also understanding order 51C7B. When it says allow, and it says upon the issuance of response or making of a statement under paragraph 1, the Speaker may. So you can see, Mr. Speaker, standing order number 1 and 51-7C is similar. May be, of course, allow the senator who asks the question to raise a maximum of 2 supplementary questions that relate to that question. And B, allow any other senator to ask a supplementary question. Mr. Speaker, on that 51C7B, you need to give direction so that members cannot use that as a pretext of making a debate, making a speech. And when you say supplementary question, does it mean you can tie up into one question before asking, Mr. Speaker? And Mr. Speaker, kindly in future, understanding order number 1, you have power, Mr. Speaker, to allow us to ask as many questions as possible, Mr. Speaker. And even the Bible says we were not meant to obey the rules. It is the rules we should obey as Mr. Speaker. So I beg with your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. And I know as you sit here, Mr. Speaker, sir, you would have also wished that we ask something about Shakahola in your county, because you cannot ask. Some of us were willing to do the job for you, the legwork, Mr. Speaker. So kindly be patient with us, please. Be fair to us. You are our father. Please sometimes allow us to ask for the benefit of our constituents, Mr. Speaker. With that indulgence, I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chirangay. Indeed, this is the first session we're having on these newly introduced standing orders. And going forward, of course, we are learning and looking at the weight and the interest that is normally generated whenever the CS Interior appears either before the National Assembly or the Senate. I believe as we sit in SBC, we'll take on board the very valid concerns that you've raised, that maybe whenever the CS Interior is appearing, we do not have any other CSs appearing on that particular day, so that we can give ample time to senators to ask as many supplementary questions as possible. But I believe it's a learning process. Once we retire as SBC, these are the things we're going to put together, looking at the experience we've had today, how do we then get better going forward. And I believe the next session should be much better than the one we are just having. But indeed, it is a valid concern that you've raised, and we're going to take it on board once we retire as SBC. Is the CS Lands present? Senator Fatuma Dulo, kindly proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank you. I thank also the CS for lands. Mr. Speaker, let me confirm to this House, this is the second time that I'm actually pursuing this matter. The first time I brought a question to the floor of the House, and NLC completely refused to respond to the issues I have raised. And that is why I'm repeating the question, because my people's rights is being violated. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether you can allow me to ask the question plus supplementary so that I'm done with the question.
Let us abide by our standing orders. Just ask the question,
okay.
Let the CS respond, and then you shall rise to ask your supplementary question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I beg to ask the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development. Could the Cabinet Secretary state the reason for the disparity in compensation between residents of Nuno, Madogashi and Isiolo affected by the African Gateway project, and further provide the criteria used in determining the compensation figures? Number two, what are the measures put in place by the government to ensure equitable compensation to the affected residents in both areas? Can I confirm to this House that I have not gone through the response I've just received this morning? I thank you.
Cabinet Secretary, kindly proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to appear before this August House, and also appreciate the question from Honorable Senator Fatuma Dulo. Mr. Speaker, I request for your indulgence and guidance, because as the Honorable Senator said, the mandate of compensation for public lands is squarely on National Lands Commission pursuant to Article 67 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and Section 113 of the Land Act 2012. Mr. Speaker, after receiving this question, I forwarded the matter to the National Lands Commission via letter dated 20th April 2023, and it's marked as Annexure 2, and I received a report which is attached as Annexure 2. Honorable Speaker, this matter was executed by the National Lands Commission, which is an independent institution. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I was requesting for your guidance as to whether I go ahead and submit the report that I received from the National Lands Commission, because as a government, the report we received, we feel it's not adequately done. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, if I'm allowed, I would request that you give guidance to this, whether I go ahead and give and submit the report that I received from the National Lands Commission.
Senator Dulo.
Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank the CS. Mr. Speaker, I'm really heartened because NLC is a government department, is squarely under Ministry of Lands. And as the minister has said, we have even had a sitting with the commissioners and the chair. We have even gone round as leaders of Isiolo to look at this matter. But clearly, the chair and the commissioners are evading the issues of Isiolo County. I don't mind the CS submitting the report that he received from NLC, but I will appeal to this House. The only way that Isiolo people can receive justice, let the Committee of Lands or Roads go on the ground, Mr. Speaker, so that Isiolo people can actually get justice as far as this compensation is concerned. Mr. Speaker.
Senator Fatuma, yes, what is your point of order, Senator Mandago?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 105 on the statement of fact. I've heard the Senator for Isiolo saying that the National Land Commission is a department in the Ministry of Lands. Mr. Speaker, as far as I'm concerned, the National Land Commission is an independent constitutional commission. Is it in order for the Senator for Isiolo to mislead the House?
Very well, Senator Fatuma Dulo. These are the Chapter 15
Mr. Speaker,
Constitution.
Thank you for this, but whether it's an independent commission or not, it's a commission directly under the parent ministry, which is Ministry of Lands. That is why the minister is responding to the queries. But my request, Mr. Speaker, as far as this matter is concerned, I would urge an appeal to the relevant committee to visit the affected communities so that we can deal with this matter for finality. I thank you.
Senator Chirange. It's not here. Senator Chute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, CS Lands. I have one question only. There is land in Moyale, big chunk of land called Gubalticha. It has a dispute between three communities, the Boran, the Gabra, and the Burji. I wanted to know from the CS if you are aware of this dispute, when are you going to solve this dispute. Thank you.
Honorable CS. What is the point of order, Senator Boni?
Mr. Speaker, I'm lost. The minister has told us that he doesn't believe or is not satisfied with the answer he's giving us. And here we are, after he asked us to make that decision, still listening. Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni, a ruling is going to be made to that effect.
Okay.
Yes. A ruling is going to be made to that effect.
Thank you.
Yeah. Honorable CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In regards to the land issue in Moyale, I want to tell this August House I'm not aware of it, but I'll look into it and give a satisfactory response to that. Mr. Speaker, it's good to let this August House know that National Land Commission inspects, values, and rewards any compensation on the lands, on public lands. Therefore, and since they are an independent institution, they are allowed to do that by law. So my request, Mr. Speaker, is to let National Lands Commission be summoned so that they can adequately tackle this issue, because all the information that is needed to this August House will only come from them. So I'm still requesting that the House, through you, Mr. Speaker, to request the National Lands Commission to come and give and shed more light to this issue from the Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this question by Senator Fatuma Dulo. And my request, Mr. Speaker, because this is a practice that we've seen NLC undertake in various government projects. Mr. Speaker, you remember there was compensation for the SGR. In my own county, there was compensation for Kentraco transmission lines. And Mr. Speaker, we are seeing this in Isholo. The biggest challenge we have, Mr. Speaker, is the process of valuation by NLC. And Mr. Speaker, I would want to request that the chair of NLC be summoned.
What is your supplementary question, Senator Mandago? You know, this is not a statement where you...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, my request is the chair NLC should be summoned so that we can ask direct supplementary questions on the issues of valuation. But allow me now that I have this chance to ask the Cabinet Secretary for lands. What plans does the ministry have to ensure that all public utilities in this country are titled? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The government is in the process of securing all public land in the country. This is a process we have started with the learning institutions. That's our universities, our technical colleges, schools, and this was prompted by the grabbing that has been rampant in our public institutions. So, Mr. Speaker, as a ministry, we are working hard to make sure that all public land is secured through titling, and we are doing that through the National Titling Program. Mr. Speaker, the question of land compensation and valuation is done by that independent commission. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we would request as a government to detach the two processes so that we are able as a ministry to to supervise and know where there is overvaluation and undervaluation. And I totally agree with the senator who has brought up this question that we require the National Lands Commission to come and shed more light to this. Thank you.
Honorable CS, you had 2 questions to respond to. You attempted to respond question A.
Yes.
Can you proceed to respond to question B?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As a government, we are preparing a national lands value index. Mr. Speaker, so far we've managed to do land value index to 22 counties, and the remaining 25 counties, the process is ongoing, and Isiolo is one of them. This national land value index we are going to develop a database of land values across the country, and we are going to achieve 4 main things. One is to harmonize land values for different areas across the country. We'll also generate a reference point for the land values for compensation and other related purposes. Also, we are going to guide investment decisions for both public and private entities. And lastly, guide national and county governments in budgeting for public projects. So the cure to this, Mr. Speaker, is to have this land value index, because with that, we'll be able to compensate people adequately without overvaluing or without undervaluing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the indulgence. Just a quick supplementary question to the CS of Lands. Mr. Speaker, sir, through you, how many forest evictees or people who have been evicted in Nandi County and the intention of compensating them? Plus, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry and through National Land Commission, they had ordered resurveying of multinational tea estates across South Rift and in Nandi. So specifically in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, the resurveying of multinational tea estates will take how long, Mr. Speaker? And if there is excess lands that are being occupied by the multinational tea estates, what is the intention of the Ministry of Lands to do with the excess land? I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable CS.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On issues raised by the Honorable Senator, I would request that I get more time to look into that, because as it was not part of what we had prepared for today, but promise that we are going to look into that and give this House adequate answer to that. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, as you ask your supplementary questions, let it be related to the subject, to the primary question. That will allow the Honorable CS give you a comprehensive answer. Any question, supplementary question that is not related to the primary question, then you will get the very response that you've just received from the CS, that I need to go back and prepare and come back. So your supplementary questions, let them flow from the primary question so that the CS can adequately respond to that. Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My explanatory question is that Waziri, you are aware that title deeds are very important documents in this country today, and most parts of this country, especially in the Wajir, Garissa, and Mandera, experiencing issues to do with title deeds. When will you, will the ministry open offices to issue title deeds? Because it has become difficult. You know, traveling all the way from Mandera and Wajir to look for title deeds in this place. So when will you have a regional office that can be able to give us title deeds? And what's your plan?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And to report that we're in the process of opening up registries in areas that had no registries. This is in line with what the government is doing, because what we're doing at the moment is making sure that all our land records are digitized. And with that, that will help us do away with most issues that have been rampant in the land sector. So we are going to bring these services closer to Wananchi, and soon we'll be having, we are going to open registries in areas that had none. And that will make sure that that problem of acquiring titles and other land documents will be availed in time. Thank you.
Senator Manzo.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned with the independence of the National Land Commission and the role of the ministry. It seems that most questions we are going to bring here, it will be back and forth. I would like the Honorable Minister to clarify to what extent, as much as the National Land Commission is independent with its technical work, to what extent then are you able to advise or even control the
chamber to respond to questions. To this end, upon arrival at the Parliament buildings, a cabinet secretary will be ushered to the lounge area in the new wing. At the appropriate time, the cabinet secretary, accompanied by the maximum of 3 officers from the ministry, will be led into the chamber by the sergeant at arms. Other officers from the ministry may take up seats in the speaker's gallery. The cabinet secretary and the 3 designated officers will take up seats to the right of the chair and wait for the order for questions to be called out, upon which senators may pose their questions to the cabinet secretary as approved. The 2 senators at the back, kindly find your way to your seats again. After senators ask the question, the speaker will give an opportunity to the cabinet secretary to respond. In making the response, the cabinet secretary will proceed to
member for Mandera West. He's out of the house. I'm very sorry because the screen shows that he's here. The Honorable Omboko Milemba, member for Emuhaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to weigh in on this bill by Honorable, which tries to mitigate the challenges that are in the border, not only border, but both two-wheeled and three-wheeled. Three-wheeled would refer to what we call the tuk-tuk motor vehicles on our roads. Honorable Speaker, in my opinion, there must have been a gap, and all the time we make laws to fill gaps that are existing. And the Honorable Member saw clearly that there was a gap in existence insofar as regulation of these two-wheeled and three-wheeled vehicles was concerned. And that is why he came up with this particular law. We have been told by the chair of the committee and the committee members that there's an existing law which has not been implemented. But when you look at the dire situation that the border and all that section of the three-wheel, two-wheel vehicles require and urgently need, then you realize that the Honorable Member had a serious reason and has done everything correct in order to see to it that this sector is regulated. In my own county, Honorable Speaker, and a constituency, Muhaya, there's a very well organized border arrangement, and with their general chairman at the county level. But severally they have visited me. The last time they spoke to me, they were telling me that they have a policy that is lying within the assembly of the county government. And the county government is unable to do anything about that particular policy. But that policy would bring about self-regulation and order within the sector. Partly, Honorable Speaker, why this is happening is because the border regulation has never been implemented, if it is there. It's now for the first time after this Honorable Member has brought about this matter that now we are being told, and now we are aware, that there's a regulation which is not implemented. But Honorable Speaker, even the law that is governing this sector, by the time it was made, there were certain things that had not happened within this sector of border. For instance, the law that is existing and which has been talked about by the committee very clearly was made much earlier than the time when border became a passenger carrier. During that particular time, the piki or border were not carrying passengers. And at the same time, the tuk-tuk were not possibly carrying passengers and they were not in the country. Making of laws must be a dynamic process which is driven by need. And I think this is why the Honorable Member has brought this particular bill to this particular house, that things have changed. Since the time when you saw the piki not carrying passengers, now they are carrying passengers. Look at this. That how is the licensing of a PSV motor vehicle driver done? There's a certain threshold of experience that this person must have in order to get a license. And this is because this particular person is going to carry human beings, and therefore they need to have some extra ordinary assessment of his skills in driving. What about border? We don't have a threshold because we don't have policy, we don't have regulation, and regulation, if it's existing, like we have been told, it's not implemented. So I think there's really need to consider this law on the floor of this House very, very fairly, without simply saying that there's duplication of the law. Honorable Speaker, if you go to Thailand, for instance, this border industry is not only a Kenyan situational problem or challenge. In Thailand, where the population is about 47 million people, there are over 30 million borders on the road. But there's no any disagreement or disorder in Thailand courtesy of borders on the road. In Kenya, where we have 47 million Kenyans existing here, Honorable Speaker, and the House should listen to this, we only have 5 million borders on the road. But we are already complaining that there's chaotic, every complaint, yet this is a sector that is driving the local economy back at home. In fact, in my own county, whenever I meet the border borders, I tell them that you have taken over the teachers. Formerly in the 1970s, 80s, there were teachers who controlled the local economy. Today, it is border that controls the local economy. So, to bring order within this particular sector, this law was not a bad law. When I rose on a point of order against senior counsel, Honorable Speaker, I did not want to interfere with senior counsel, but I wanted to ask senior counsel, who spoke just after me.
Senior counsel, are you referring to? This house has many senior counsels.
The senior most who is here and who spoke on this matter, Honorable Speaker, as you have been told clearly, this is the senior most. I wanted him to bring out a clarity between the issue of duplication, because the only challenge to this law would be duplication. And I was hoping that you should be listening, senior counsel, that in the event that there's duplication of the law that is on the floor of the House, and that is in existence, then we would make a decision on that. But where it is not existing, this is a very good law. It should go to the third reading. And in that particular level, of course, as we usually do, the owner of this particular bill will sit with the committee, and they will harmonize the amendments that will be there. And we can pick every good item in this particular law and incorporate in the existing law. This will help the sector, and it will be very good for this particular house and the particular sector of border. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, the border sector is in their need of good regulation, because they are doing good work. And if they are regulated, like I've indicated, there are only 5 million of them. Properly regulated, we need even to have as many as 25 to 30 million borders operating in this country, well regulated, earning an income and supporting the economy, and everything working very, very, very good. And that's the way we shall grow our economy. With those few or many remarks, I submit and support this particular bill. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I can see several members raising their hands, but I would like to ask you to allow me to balance both sides of the House. So this opportunity goes to the member for Alego Usonga, the Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important piece of legislation. Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill. And in supporting this bill, I want to fault the committee, the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure, for basically failing to do their work and using the submissions of the NTSA authority to conclude that this bill is bad. Madam Speaker, this bill is very important. And I want to agree with the Honorable Kingara for thinking through and coming up with this legislation. Madam Speaker, the question of regional licensing and registration of motorcycles is something which is timely. First of all, Madam Speaker, if you've been traveling across this country, you realize that there are some regions that do not need these motorcycles. Like if you come to Kisumu, you will find that there are tuk-tuks in Kisumu, but they are not in Siaya, because they are more relevant in Kisumu than in Siaya. If you go to regions like, Suba, you may not need tuk-tuk, you may simply need border. So the question of regional licensing is something which you need to explore, so that each and every region will license these tuk-tuk and borders based on their needs. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I have, in my constituency, there are many cases where you find that borders disappear, they are stolen. Now, when a border is stolen in Siaya, it is taken to Busia, it is taken to, very far-flung counties. And when you try to trace it, you will never get it. Now, when we have a law that allows for regional licensing of these borders, so if you operate in Siaya, you operate in Siaya. You can never have these cases where your border is stolen and is being used in other regions. So I think that failing to take notice of some of these, realities on the ground is, I think, not practical, and I want to fault the committee. The committee simply waited for the submission of NTSA, and the way NTSA submitted that this law is bad, that is the way they adopted it. This is not right. I think this House needs to adopt this amendment and allow for seamless operations of border borders and tuk-tuks in regions that need them. I know that, you would argue that, if we do regional licensing, then it would not be possible for a border border license in Nairobi to go to SIA and ETC. And let us be factual. Some of these things like border border and tuk-tuk, they are not supposed to be used for long distance, transport. Long distance transport should be reserved for other forms of motor vehicles. And this is the reason why we should restrict them, so that if you operate in Meru, for instance, please let us use them in Meru. Let us not allow a border border from Meru to be driven all the way up to Nairobi. And I think this is going to help us reorganize our transport sector. And issues that are happening like theft, disappearances, use of border border for criminal activities, we are going to tame them. And this can only happen if we enhance these regulations through what my colleague, Honorable Kungara, is proposing. So I want to persuade the House, just like Honorable the MP for the Chair of Justice has done. Members, let us support our colleague who has done everything possible to come up with a bill and a law, and let us not diminish all his efforts. And also, Madam Chair, this idea that members come up with very progressive legislation and committees decide to sit on them and oppose it and reject it is something that we need to refuse as a House. Because we are going to discourage members from coming up with ideas that are very good. This thing is very good, but I think NTSA cannot stop us from making a law simply because they think this law is going to take away some of their responsibilities, some of their mandate. So, Madam Speaker, I support this bill, and I want to persuade members to also support it and overturn the recommendation by the committee that this bill should be rejected. Madam Speaker, I submit. Thank you.
Much Honorable Atandi. The Honorable Joseph Kahangara, member for Lari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And from the onset, I stand to support this amendment to the NTSA bill. Madam Speaker, I think we all agree the border industry is very, very important. It is an industry that has created employment. One of the problems that we have in this country is the issues of unemployment. It has created a lot of employment to youth coming from school and starting working in the border industry. It has also provided transport from very interior areas where we don't have public transport, matatus and others. This is the industry that has been able to bridge that particular gap. And I think from what members have been contributing here, we'll all agree that as much as the industry is that important, there is a problem. And the problem is that members have said if you go to hospitals, most of the people there injured is through the border industry. The committee and the members who have spoken here have said that indeed there are enough regulations to govern this particular industry, and probably the issue of enforcement is a problem. What I would want to ask the committee, is it enough to say that we have regulations? Well, on the other side, we agree that indeed there is a problem. We need to be practical and come up with a solution to the problem that you're finding in the industry. And as the member for Ruiro had proposed, as Mheshimiwa Tandi has said, is that he wanted the border to be regulated from the regions, meaning that we have seen situations where thieves are using borders coming from one area to the other, and then they disappear. If these borders are registered, for example, within Kiambu, then the borders will not be stolen and being taken to other areas. The borders will not be used by thieves and that kind of thing. So for me, what I think is that other than killing this particular amendment, and Madam Speaker, let me say that we have seen it, that whenever members come up with private member bills, they're either taken over by government or by committees, and they end up being killed. In this particular case, I would urge members that because we all agree that there is a problem within the border industry, let us sit, let us go to the third reading, let us do the amendments that are necessary, and if the issue of enforcement is a problem, then the committee should be able to summon the people who are supposed to be doing the enforcement. Either we are saying that either the police officers are ignorant of the law, let them be educated on what they're supposed to be doing on our roads. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I would want to stand and support the amendment by Mheshimiwa King'ara and urge members that let us go to the third stage and reject the report of the committee that wants to kill the private member's amendment bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable John Waweru, member for Dagoretti South.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate this opportunity. I also want to appreciate the honorable member representing Roiro constituency, because I think the people of Roiro need to just take note of how hardworking this member is in this house. This is a member who already has 2 green papers in this 13th session of Parliament. This is the work a member of Parliament is elected to do, to legislate. He's doing a great job. Madam Speaker, anytime we put up any law, we are seeking to cure some mischief. We are seeking to fill in some gaps that exist within the law. And Madam Speaker, when I went through what Honorable King'ara has, especially when he was formulating it, because we were having conversations, I was extremely excited. I had seen an opportunity for this country to start regulating the subsector of these 2-wheeled and 3-wheeled motor vehicles on the road. Madam Speaker, the proposals that he was able to distill down to were giving me an opportunity to, even at the third stage of this bill, to be able to introduce more amendments, Madam Speaker, where we start regulating and sanitizing the space of boda-bodas and tuk-tuks in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I did look at the report of the committee. I combed through it with a tooth comb. Madam Speaker, I see a point of argument, yes, but I do not see the reason why we should throw away these amendments. The reason, Madam Speaker, is the fact that if the law already exists, the regulations are already in place, then the chaos we are seeing in this sector, Madam Speaker, the mayhem, the maiming on the roads, and the disorder and corruption around this space would not be existing. Madam Speaker, I say that it is a point of argument because there are people who are saying that maybe it is because these laws are not being enforced. Madam Speaker, enforcement is happening every day, from the policemen who are on the road to the regulations that have been put by NTSA and everything else that is happening in the attempt to clean up this space. It tells you that the problem is not at a subsidiary level. It is at a substantive law level. And that is what the Honorable King'ara is seeking to do. See a gap in the laws, try and fill up that gap, and that is why I'm standing, Madam Speaker, to support this bill. If we start doing what he is asking us to do under Section 4 and subsection 2, Madam Speaker, we shall well be on our way to moving in the direction that we are seeing Rwanda moving in. Madam Speaker, if you go to Rwanda, you shall see order. You shall see boda-bodas that can never carry 2 billion passengers on one boda-boda. You shall see boda-bodas that stop at traffic lights together with all the other motorized traffic. Madam Speaker, that is not happening here today. Not because we are not enforcing, but because we do not have substantive laws that can move towards sanitizing this space. Madam Speaker, to my mind, the boda-boda, the tuk-tuk, should be the last mile of transport, from a bus stop to a gate. Madam Speaker, if we start looking at the laws that Honorable King'ara is proposing, we shall be able to put the boda-boda in its place, so that today you shall not be seeing a boda-boda speeding across a super highway where other traffic, matatus, buses, trucks are moving at a speed of 120 kilometers per hour, and a boda-boda trying to deliver a parcel is trying to speed along the same highway in a place where you are stipulated to only overtake on the right side of the road, But the boda cannot be in the middle of a highway trying to overtake on the right side of the road because they'll have to cross lanes, Madam Speaker. The danger that comes to it is that the boda is now forced to overtake from the left side of the law on a blind spot of a driver. And this is why we are occasioning so many accidents on highways because of these three-wheeled and two-wheeled motorized traffic. Madam Speaker, I would want to ask honorable members to just look at the recommendations that have come from the Transport Committee and see them as a point of argument that can be allowed. Yes?
You are moving very well with the debate, but in the interest of time, I request you to conclude.
Madam Speaker, I'm very well guided. I shall conclude by requesting the House to look at the recommendations made by the Committee of Transport and Infrastructure and look at the recommendations that the Honorable Kingara is proposing and see the gap that they are seeking to fill. And because whatever is coming from the committee, for me, is a point of argument, let us argue it at the third reading, where we shall look at what is good from what is coming from Honorable Kingara, what is being proposed by the Transport Committee, where there is a convergence of ideas, we can converge those ideas. Where there is a gap, let the amendments fill this gap so that we have a substantive law that looks into how we regularize and sanitize and tidy up the space of two-wheeled and and three-wheeled motorized traffic on our highways. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Member for Dagoretti. Honorable members, time allocated to this motion has come to the end, and I therefore call upon the mover to reply. The Honorable Kingara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to reply to the said amendment. Madam Speaker, may I start by thanking this Honorable House for allowing me several opportunities to stand on front.
Kingara, if you intend to donate, because I see a lot of interest on this matter, you may please do so before you reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for that good guide. Then I propose I donate 2 minutes to my sister here. Then I donate another 2 minutes to Dr. Nyakach, yeah. Karachonyo, a member for Karachonyo. Who else? I also donate another 2 minutes for member for Kwanzaa. Then another 2 minutes for member. I think those are enough. Member for Mombasa, 2 minutes. Okay. Dan Kiri, another 2 minutes. I think those are 8 minutes, Madam Speaker. I propose that we follow the same order, Madam Speaker, as I have mentioned.
The Honorable Naomi Wako.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to thank Mheshimiwa Kingara for allowing me to add my voice to this. I support the proposed amendment, and I will go very briefly, simply because it creates job for our young people, and it is also adding value in terms of economic empowerment, and then accessibility. When people want to rush somewhere, it also helps them. It also saves time. Those people who want to get somewhere very quickly, they use that, and I support because of all that. And it has helped many people to overcome some challenges like poverty, or as we all know, idle mind is devil's workshop, and it has helped our young people to overcome all the challenges that comes by this. Before I conclude, Madam Speaker, I want to say that we need to regulate and make sure that all border riders are registered and they are given their registration number, the hours of operations also given, and also encourage them to have their own circles. And Madam Speaker, also have special medical cover because of the many accidents that have occurred in the past, and maybe proper guidance and training be given. And as I finish, counseling center to be also started so that those who are going through challenges and trauma can receive counseling at the right time. Thank you, and I support.
Thank you. The member for Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, one thing I must say about our transport system as regards border is lack of discipline. Lack of discipline by the cyclists themselves. I support the amendments. I support what Mheshimiwa Kingara is doing, but at the same time, we must emphasize on discipline by the road users, whether a pedestrian or the rider himself. And then, where the problem exists most is with the police, the enforcers of the law. I think they have relaxed so much that sometimes you think there is no law. There is no law because any rider is doing anything he likes. These are the kind of things we also need to confirm. But I do congratulate the honorable member for bringing this issue up, and I'm sure we all need to do some panel beating on whatever law that may be existing as of now before we go to the actual amendment. Thanks so much.
Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, member for Westlands.
Madam Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. And just want to say, Madam Speaker, it's very important to have a regulation in place that will control and bring sanity in this sector of transport. It is very critical in our economy. And Madam Speaker, also that even the people who design our roads, this is now a reality. They must have a specific lane reserved for people riding on motorcycles, even bicycles and others, even pedestrian walk, because this is where the problem is, that they are squeezing themselves on the road that, Madam Speaker, is only designed for vehicles. So we believe that when this is put in order, I think, Madam Speaker, there will be a lot of sanity in this industry. And young people who are riding motorbicycles, Madam Speaker, some of them have genuine, they are doing something for their own living. So we support this amendment, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Zamzam, member for Mombasa.
Asante sana, Madam Speaker. Niweze kupongeza mjadala huu wa leo ndugu yetu Mheshimiwa Kanyari. Na mimi naweza kuchangia nikisema kuwa bodaboda wameleta uchumi wa Kenya kuwa bora zaidi. Bodaboda wameokoa maisha watu wengi kwa kuwa na wepesi wa usafiri. Bodaboda ni katika vijana ambao ni wa Kenya ambao wanatafuta pia ajira zao. Na mimi niwapongeze bodaboda wa Mombasa kwa sababu ni katika wale ambao wamekuwa na nidhamu ya hali ya juu. Licha hayo yote, kuna umuhimu sana wa kuweza kupiga msasa sheria na kuhakikisha kuwa pia wanapata pia sheria ya kuweza kuwaweka katika njia ya sawa. Tuweze kuangalia pia katika wale ambao wako katika asasi ya barabara, waweze kuwekewa barabara zao kando ili wasiweze kupita mahali ambapo kuna magari ambao husababisha ajali sana. Tuangalie pia waweze kujiandikisha ili tuijulikane kuwa bodaboda ipi ambayo imeleta maafa ama ipi ambayo imeibiwa, tutaweza kujua kwa wepesi. Niweze kusupport sana mjadala huu nikisema Kenya inahitaji sheria za kila upande, na sheria ni msumeno ukata mbele na nyuma. Kuna wale wanaoharibia bodaboda sifa, na hao ndio ambao tutataka kupiga msasa. Tuangalie kuwa sheria na masharti natumika. Asante sana, Madam Speaker.
Asante. Honorable members, the last one on the list of those that the Honorable Kingara donated to is the Honorable Karido.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I also participate in supporting this proposed amendment on the border sector? This is a sector that is very crucial to the economy of this country. These are the people who are reliable mostly whenever transport is needed within the villages. And it's good that we restructure them by having this amendment so that they can know what to do. To me, I believe the borders should be fully registered. They should have circles from the village level and circles like those of Matato, Madam Speaker, so that we know each border that operates a certain route. Wherever there is a mess, it will be easy to identify what are the causes and which is the border that is involved. Also, it will maintain discipline, whereby each border will know that they are circles and they are responsible for their deeds. Therefore, Madam Speaker, this is an institution that we should strengthen. This is a sector that we take care of. And also, we should encourage the insurance to take care of the borders and at least give them the least possible cover that will take care of their motorbikes. Because most of them are not insured because of the high cost of insurance cover. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support this amendment.
Thank you very much, Member for Igembe Central. The Honorable Kingara, you have 2 minutes to conclude your reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to reply that the National Transport and Safety Authority Amendment Bill number 43, which has been shared by members. Madam Speaker, may I also thank each and every member who have taken his or her time to contribute to this amendment bill, which is of a lot of essence in our economy. I know some did not support. I accommodate members' feelings and contribution. And my request, Madam Speaker, to this Honorable House is to allow the bill to proceed through amendments. Madam Speaker, may I also share on Hansard that I'm not rigid to contribution. I have a bunch of contribution here, Madam Speaker, from members. It is for this House to arrange laws to serve our country. I gave examples, Madam Speaker, of how we started with this industry. I gave also examples how the industry is mushrooming and growing, and if there is no sanity, Madam Speaker, I see ourselves going astray. Rather than going astray, Madam Speaker, I wish that we use such legislation to arrange matters which can lead to sanity in this country. So I want to support the members who are with me. I want to support who are not with me, and I wish that they join me so that we make good law in this country. Thank you, Madam.
The reply.
I move to reply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, putting of the question is deferred. Next order.
Order number 10, the Health Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 42 of 2022, second reading.
The Honorable Didmas Barasa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, this Health Amendment Bill number 2 of 2022 seeks to amend the health laws of this country so that the Ministry of Health can develop policies that will guide the referral of a patient from one facility to the other. It also includes, that the minister concerned will, in liaison with various stakeholders, they will be able to come up with a policy guideline, with guiding principles that will ensure smooth transfer of patients from one hospital to the other, both locally and internationally. Madam Speaker, this is important because as we speak today, the referral of patients from one hospital to the other is done haphazardly. One doctor may decide to refer you to a different facility simply because he is moody, he is tired, he doesn't have the time. So we want the transfer of patients from one facility to the other to be guided by law. Madam Speaker, I want, before I begin to prosecute this bill, I want to bring to the attention of the House that I'm most thankful to the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly because a very experienced lawyer was assigned to me. We worked together in terms of combing through the existing laws, identifying the gaps. As you are all aware, that laws are made to solve a public problem. So I'm very, very thankful for the support that I got from the legal counsel that was seconded to my office and to me by the Clerk of the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, I have gone through the report by the Committee on Health. I've gone through their recommendations, their findings. I want to draw the attention of the House to a letter that was written to the Committee on Health by the PS of Health, Mr. Peter K. Toom, the Principal Secretary. The basis of this letter, Madam Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of the House that the committee lifted the contents of this letter and it formed their basis of rejecting my proposed amendments. I will go through them one by one. Madam Speaker, the ministry says that they developed a Kenya health sector referral strategy in 2014 to guide the whole of this process. They also say that they are in the process of developing a policy guideline on medical tourism, which they have already initiated. They say so in this letter. They also go ahead to say that they have established a committee comprising of medical experts to review and vet referrals for medical treatment abroad to ensure compliance to the rules. They also go ahead to say that the rules that provides a roadmap on how a patient is transferred from one hospital to the other are contained in the rules of dental, of medical, dental practitioners. It is on this basis that they advised the committee to persuade this House not to proceed with these amendments that are to give them time to implement and do what they are doing. Madam Speaker, this is not enough reason why a bill that seeks to solve a public problem can be shelved. Madam Speaker, the thing that they are talking about being rules that are being enforced by medical practitioners, those are subsidiary legislations. And they are also not specific to the problem that I seek to solve. I want the House to ignore the contents of this letter. I want the House to ignore the recommendations by the committee, and I want to thank the Speaker of the National Assembly by allowing this bill to proceed to this stage, even when the committee felt that it should not proceed. Madam Speaker, I have also gone through the other letters that other stakeholders sent to the committee. The Kenya Private Sector Alliance supported my amendments. They have also provided suggestions on how this bill can be improved further. And I want to assure them that I will put their suggestions, their proposals into enriching this bill. Madam Speaker, we also have another organization called Coalition of Blood for Africa. They have also supported my proposed amendments. They have also suggested the other ways on how we can improve this bill further, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as we speak today, there is no substantive law that health facilities and practitioners will follow into ensuring the dignity of the patients that are being transferred from one facility to the other. We have some who have just devised their own methodology. We have some facilities that have come up with very good policies, but we want to ensure that we have a law that guides transfer of patients from one hospital to the other, including transfer of patients from this country to the rest of this country. Today, Madam Speaker, if you are a doctor and you have a clinic across the borders of this country, say of Uganda, you can decide to be driven by the appetite to make more money and refer that patient to your own clinic across the country. I am also aware, Madam Speaker, that there may exist some health practitioners in this country may be colluding with the other facilities across this, outside this country, in India, in China, that they usually act as conduits to refer patients, even when the reason why they are being referred to is not merited. This bill, Madam Speaker, seeks to ensure that even before a patient is referred, this is a very good bill. This is an idea that can be improved by this House. When a member of Parliament brings a bill or a motion on the floor, the essence is to tap into the intelligence of more than 300 members who have got different expertise, Madam Speaker. So I bring this idea in the name of a bill, Health Amendment Act of 2022, before this House, so that we can improve and ensure that no Kenyan will suffer because of a lack of following a procedure, or rather just being referred to another facility for the sake of the referring agency making some money. This bill, Madam Speaker, it seeks to compel the government of Kenya and the ministry through the referring institution that they will also, even as they are referring, they must also inform the Kenyan embassy or the Kenyan consular from where this patient is going, so that the government of Kenya can also continue to offer some bit of logistical support in terms of understanding being treated in which part of the world, in which hospital, so that it also becomes the responsibility of our ambassadors and high commissions, that wherever they also have an added responsibility of taking stock of the number of Kenyans who are undergoing treatment in their country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the committee also felt like these regulations are enough to stop this bill from proceeding. regulations are not superior to the laws. The hierarchy of laws in this country are made in a way that the Constitution comes number one. Number two is acts of parliament. Then the regulations comes third. Many health facilities and health practitioners, they don't take regulations as serious as when it's in the law. And there is nothing wrong. There is no harm. When I was coming up with this bill, I looked at the existing regulations. I looked at the existing strategy on referral from the ministry. And I found out that they were not specific. So I have decided to enrich them and anchor them in the law of this country, so that the health facilities and the health practitioners can continue to be guided by this law. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the members of Parliament, I want to ask the Kenyan people who have been suffering due to lack of referral policy, where a patient goes to seek medical attention from a facility, and because of the negligence, because of laziness of the person in charge of that facility, decides that I'm not going to attend to this patient and refers that patient to another facility. Maybe in some instances, Honorable Speaker, patients are referred to facilities that are run by the same people, not because they are unable to provide a solution to what ails a patient, but they are driven to make more money, because, you know, when you are referred, you are psychologically begin to think that this is a very serious problem, and they take it as an advantage to extort patients, to demand for more money, more expensively, on a matter that could easily be treated by that health facility. Honorable Speaker, I want to go further and ask members of Parliament that our role is to make the life of the Kenyan people easy, not difficult. Our role is to take an audit of existing problems and provide a solution by amending the existing laws. It is on this basis, Honorable Speaker, that I decided, in consultation with the other members of Parliament, in consultation with the office of the Clerk of the National Assembly, in consultation with the office of the Speaker of the National Assembly,
No value was taken from you, and no value was added to you at any one point. And this is what the system gave us. So there is no problem in this, because we decided that if we don't have variances for Professor Ojakoya and for David Maure, then we don't need to look at their data here. But we respect them as presidential candidates, and please accept that we can go on with just the two gentlemen.
Now, there's one viewer here who asked a question. He's called, I think I've lost him. No, yeah. Nas Hassan says these kind of election problems must end once and for all. Now, this is a matter of concern to many Kenyans, because what Azimio leadership has been trying to say in public and also in private fora is that the election was bungled, presidential election was bungled, and the question is, what is this that was being relayed in Bomas? Isn't it what is supposed to be in the server? Is there a difference between what was in the server, or what is in the server, and what was being relayed to the public in the Bomas, in the IBC portal at the Bomas of Kenya auditorium?
Yeah, thank you, sir. We have a body mandated to carry out elections, and this is IEBC. They gave us results at the portal, and those results were hurriedly announced. And remember, for those who have forgotten a little bit about how it happens, the Form 34A is from the polling station that informs Form 34B. This is what we see the commissioners reading during the live transmissions. And then we change that to Form 34C and then to Form 34D that is now used to declare the president. When somebody else comes with another set of data that contradicts yours, it is up to you as IEBC to come and either refute that or try to investigate further and say, where are these results coming from? Because now they are in public domain. We have them here. We have given them to the public. And so we have two types of courts in this life. We have the normal courts, and then we have the public court. Now, the public court already has this, and they are trying to assess it. It is up to the IEBC to come and define and say, this is the source of the other form, and probably it is not correct, if they think it is not correct. But they stick to their own portal. But they're still quiet about it, and nothing is being said, and it's like that data is supposed to just float out there, and IBC is mum, so we are not sure. We are not really sure on what IBC is thinking. This is the reason why there is this cry of open those servers so that you can own up. Not that people don't know what is inside. People know, they only want the IBC to own up. And however much you try to change things in that server, it might not work for you, because we have biometrics, we have so many things involved for you to go through the same process again. So this reality of the matter is that we have two sets of results declaring two presidential candidates. And a presidency is not something simple. I want to give you, Banitala, if you allow, as an analogy. We have two types of results that affect the nation. One is the national exams results, and another one is the elections results. Just assume that somebody comes and posts results on the head teacher's office, and students come and see their outcome, and they see we have passed and others see we have failed. In that, there's celebration. There are even children who commit suicide because they have failed and they did not expect it. And then assume that 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the line, somebody else comes with another set of results and posts at the head teacher's office and say, now these are the other results that have come from NEC. And Now, all the children who presumably passed had their marks reduced again by 100, and the children who presumably failed had their marks increased by 100 each, and a lot has happened in between. How do you think the nation would take that? They would take it not in the right way. And in a way, that would be the end of the National Exam Council that day. It will be disbanded, and the person who will take lead in disbanding that National Exam Council would be the president himself. And then investigations would be put in place as to why we have these two sets of results. So how come in this one of the national elections, because it affects a presidential candidate and another one is in office, people want to downplay it as if it is not important? It is as important because it's a 5-year process that takes place. So when we are looking at it, we need to look at things with the seriousness that they deserve when these things show up.
Now, going back to your figures, what are the regions, or which are the regions that were mostly affected with these kind of changes?
Well, thank you. Let me take you directly to what is available. We have analyzed the whole thing with the help of the Secretariat, and we have placed all that data in a website called www.kenyaelectionresults.com. It is highlighted there. And when we pick it up, then we can now take you there and you look at it. Here, it's easy to go through it and understand what happened. We have explained these figures, and we don't need to go through them again. Now let me take you to the constituency summaries that will guide us onto the most affected areas that you have asked. Now when we organize the data in constituencies and then into regions, and then with final tally, this is the outcome that you see. In Mombasa, a place like Changamwe, Jomvu and Kisauni and Nyali, we did not detect any discrepancy. There was nothing. In other words, the server results and the portal results gave us the same values, and that's why we have variances of 0 and 0. Then when we come to Mombasa County, Likoni, we detected that there was some 100 votes taken from the Honorable Raila and 100 votes added to the Honorable Ruto. And in Mvita, we had some 400 votes here taken from the Honorable Raila and 400 votes added to Ruto. That means in the entire Mombasa County, Honorable Raila lost 500 votes and Honorable Ruto gained 500 votes. At some point, we will take you directly to the forms that you can see them, pick them, download them, and check on them and verify. And I'm sure you will keep quiet because you cannot dispute the reality. Then now we have Kwale. We had only Kwale, only Msambweni and Kinango affected. Then when we go to Kilifi, we had only one constituency called Magarini that also Right Honorable Raila lost 100 and Honorable Ruto gained 100. Tana River, we had also some losses. Then when we look at the entire coast region, we now note that IEBC portal that is ruling Kenya today has it that the Right Honorable Raila got 649,758 votes, while Ruto had 336,369 votes. But the summer results that we keep asking, well, open them up so that you own up. Not because we don't know, but we just want you to own up. Gave Honorable Raila 651 votes, 678, while Honorable Ruto got 334, 419. That means in the entire coast region, he lost 1,950, and 1,950 votes. Okay. Now, looking at it, we have Northeastern. I want us to go faster because we don't want to take whole time looking at 49 counties. Let us look at Northeastern. And we note that the IEBC results for Northeastern gave the Honorable Raila 352, 431, while the Honorable Ruto was given 196 and 38 votes. In this case, Honorable Raila lost 22,000 votes and 22, while the Honorable Ruto gained 21,306 votes in Northeastern. We have looked at the central, at the coast. We note that the Honorable Raila won in coast, with minus a few votes deducted from him. And then when it comes to Northeastern, also Honorable Raila won both in the server and also in the portal in Northeastern. With the deduction of some votes, he still won in both. Then when we come to the Upper Eastern, we take Upper Eastern and Lower Eastern because of various reasons, and we want to differentiate them for you. We note that here, with a few shenanigans that took place in there, we had Upper Eastern, Honorable Raila, IBC gave him 149,000 votes, 613, while the Honorable Ruto was given 731,415. That means the Upper Eastern people, Honorable Ruto won. But in the server, of 149, Honorable Raila got 232, 827, and Honorable Ruto got 648,000. So in this case, he was denied a total of 83,000 votes, 214, while Dr. Ruto was given 83,314 votes. You may think these are hot air, as they keep saying, but we have forms, and data never lie. We don't have this fished from nowhere. And anybody should come and tell us the source of these forms, if they think they know a better source than IEBC itself. We have Lower Eastern region. In Lower Eastern, where it's basically Machakos, Kitui, Makwani counties, we have the IBC server forms giving us that Honorable Raila got 769,422, while Honorable Ruto got 250,157. Again, he won with a high margin, very high margin. But we are looking at it from the servers. We still have it that he got 770,822, and Honorable Ruto got 242,052. That means 1,400 votes were deducted in the entire region of the Lower Eastern from Azimio and given to the UDA candidate, which is 5,100 votes added to him. Again, looking at it in the Lower Eastern, now Honorable Raila has won, even from the portal and from the servers themselves. He has won in both. Then we come to to Central region. In Central region, we detected a lot of things that happened, which we may need to look at critically, one by one, maybe after taking you through this. In IBC, they gave the Honorable Raila 423,000 votes. That is in the entire Central region, starting from Nyandarua, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Murang'a, Kiambu, all of that. They want to say that only 423,000 people voted for the Honorable Raila, and 1.6 million people voted for the Honorable Ruto. Now, when the server results came, this one from the servers, and added their values, we noted that the Honorable Raila had 1,027,989 votes, while the Honorable Ruto had 1,016,156 votes. When we look at Central Province, and we know the dynamics of Central, and we know at that particular time we had a sitting president campaigning on behalf of the Right Honorable Raila. Not that he can't penetrate Central by himself, because I don't think there's anybody who does not know the Right Honorable Prime Minister that he was going to win. A 50-50 sharing is highly possible in Central region. And this is what the server is giving us. The server is actually giving us 50-50 sharing between the Honorable Ruto and the Honorable Raila. We know that's basically that the Central people really voted, not really for personalities. They vote for ideologies. And here we heard the president floating an ideology that this you are safer in the hands of the Right Honorable Raila. And Honorable Ruto was also floating an ideology that you're going to get free money, what we call the Hustler Fund and so on. So probably this divided the votes in between this. And the servers are now telling us the reality and the truth, that there are those who listened to His Excellency the President, and there are those who listened to the ideology of Honorable Ruto of free money that was voted for. And so we have to stick to Central a little and figure out what really happened. But we have the results out here. All these highlights show us that there are lots of changes that took place, that Dr. Ruto was given some values, and Dr. Raila was also denied some values, which we will take you through. After that, we can now take you to Rift Valley, the entire Rift Valley region, which we did not divide into two because we knew that a presidential candidate was coming from Rift Valley. So we didn't have to look at North Rift and South Rift. We decided to put it all together so that we understand the behavior of the Rift Valley in the elections. Apparently, we are surprised that IEBC gave the Honorable Prime Minister 1.1 million votes from Rift Valley against Dr. Ruto's 2.666 million votes. And comparing that with Central, we thought that probably in the Rift Valley is where he should have even gotten some hundreds of votes only. But he still managed to be given from the portal 1.1 million. Again, when we look at the discrepancies of the things that happened, now we have 1.4 given to the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga, against Dr. Ruto's 2.3 million votes. Here, he ended up losing 336,000 votes and Ruto gaining 246,000 votes. If you look at it, this is really, really tenable because Rift Valley at some point was the bedrock of ODM. And there are people still there who are in ODM, and we knew very well at that time. We could even see resignations happening in the last minute of people transferring from UDA coming to ODM. I mean, there were even the officials of UDA resigned last minute. So in other words, there was high chances that the Prime Minister was going to get massive votes in Rift Valley. Apparently, the portal tells us it's 1.1, the server tells us it's 1.4. That is why we need to trust what the server is also telling us, and we need the IPC to come up and own up and say that this data set is from them. Last, not last, which is, for those who may want to know, it includes Kakamega, Vihiga, Bungoma, and Busia. There are 4 counties. In this case, the IBC gave the Prime Minister 849,000 votes, and Honorable Ruto was given 513,000 votes. Here again, he won. So looking at all those regions, we have only seen 2 regions where the 3 regions, I should say, including the Upper Eastern, that Ruto won, and the others, Raila has been winning. Then when we look at the value at the server, we now have 892,000 votes against 466,000 votes. That means in Western, again, Raila was denied 47,000 votes and Ruto was added 46, close to 47,000 votes. So in other words, what you take is what you give on the other side. Then when we come to Nyanza region, that includes Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori, KISII, and Nyamira. We also have it that the IBC portal that was announced at the Bomas gave Raila 1.87 million in Nyanza, and Ruto had only 283, according to the official results. But when we look at the servers, we have 1,898,000 for Raila and 261 for Ruto, 1,000 votes. Here in Nyanza, entire Nyanza, they didn't do much. Whoever was trying to do this math only took 20,000 votes from Raila and gave 22,000 votes to Ruto. Then lastly, we have Nairobi, which is basically a region on its own because of the cosmopolitan nature. We have it that Ruto was given 757. No, Raila was given 757,000 votes, while Ruto was given 535,000 votes. Again, in Nairobi, Raila won with a higher margin, but looking at the server results, it turns out that he had 822,000 votes against Ruto's 470,000 votes. Again, he won massively in both the portal and in the server with a very wide margin. But in that, as they were doing that, they raised 65,000 against Raila and given towards Ruto against 65,000 votes. The reason why we don't have diaspora discrepancies is that we were not able to access the server results from the diaspora. So those who are asking where has been the 8.1 million and 5.9 million votes coming from, you can see the addition here. But when we add all the votes, the server results indicate that all these totals, which you can do by yourself, you have it over there, 8.1122444 million votes against Dr. Ruto's 5.938160 million votes in the server. It is clear there, and you can see the figures, how they came up. We will take you to the polling station so that you can see a few. This means that the Right Honourable Minister lost 1,182,400 votes, and Ruto gained 1,208,414 votes from nowhere. These are votes that is given to you by computer. It's taken this side and added, and in that case, now he had 7 million votes, 0.1 against 6.9 million for Raila, giving the difference of 216,000 votes that was there. So in a nutshell, I've given you regionally because it's easier to understand. The whole data is there, but regionally it's much easier to understand because it's shorter.
Well, I've been going through the comments on the live stream, and there's mixed reaction. There are those who support the current, or rather Honorable Ruto, and those who support the Honorable Raila. But you know, it's always a forum where people just spew anything they want to say. And I've been going through the comments, and some believe that what you're saying is the truth, but nothing but the truth. And indeed, I believe one asked, how authentic is this data that you're trying to show us? Number two, there are those who are telling the Azimio adherents to just accept and move on. And you know, one thing I want to remind them is that, you know, as Dr. Nelson Mandela, the late Nelson Holisa Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. Now, Barnabas, going to the question that one of the viewers has asked here, how authentic is this data and is it verifiable?
Right. Thank you very much. I want to answer that because we cannot give such a magnitude of information if we cannot verify it. It affects the nation. In one way or the other, I'm sure it's live, and we know social media today is accessible world over. So this is not just about Kenyans. It's about friends of Kenya. It's about Kenyans in the diaspora. It's about everybody else. So we cannot come up with things that cannot be verified. In that same website, if you look at it, I want to take you through it. We have indicated here that this is comparative results from IBC server forms 34B and Bomas portal forms 34B for the 2022 presidential elections. So that means we have sources we took them from. We took them from the IEBC themselves. That's why we authoritatively write here IEBC forms. They can take us to court if they think these are not their forms. They can choose to do that. Yeah? Then, the variation of the original Form 34B can be downloaded from the given links below for every constituency. The final analysis calculates the following results. We have indicated here. This has been explained. From here, you can now view, we have three columns here. We have 3 columns that you can interact with. One is just showing you the county, the constituency, and then now you can download the server form, what came from the servers later on, and the original Bomas forms that was originally at the Bomas. Even IBC know that with these Bomas portal forms is what they gave people, and they say the results are there. I quote Chebukati saying one point that if you can't add those things by yourself, then you are to blame. They are there, pick your calculators and add the results. So we have placed them there for you to see that they were there, even though they pulled them down later on. And I remember at one point when Chebukati was asked, he cited the cost of maintaining them in their servers, and that's why they could not keep them there. Otherwise, he didn't have any other reason why he pulled them down. So we have put them there for you to verify because we are the complainants. And when we are complainants, we must give all the evidence that we have. So let's take you to a case like Likoni here. This is Mombasa, Likoni. I hope you are following, those who can follow with me. The server form for Likoni is this one. Let's download it. There it is. We have downloaded it. This is a Form 34B from the server. And you can see it is all the features of Form 34B as brought to us by IEBC. No one can have access to these watermarked papers from IEBC and the barcodes and the logo and everything else and still be confident enough to display to the public if you are cooking this. You can't. The IBC portal form here. This is how we talk of verifiability now. Let's verify these 2 forms together for those who are following. Yeah, so just to rotate and see the values here, you can see that one. This is now the now it is 170 and 179. If you look at this data, how it is, there is no editing, nothing. You can't see anything. So this means the sources, the original sources, are the ones that gave us both results, the 170 and 179, and here they gave us 270 and 279 for the same station here. Look, this is Licodep 01, we have 270 and we have 79, while on this one, we have 170 and we have 179. So we have simplified the whole thing for you. Instead of going through all those forms and checking what is inside, because you may not be able to tell, we have put a column called the processed comparison results. Here we have the view. So let's view what happened in Likoni. You can see there is to Honorable Wajakoya and Honorable Maure. We have omitted your results because there were no discrepancies. Even here, we noticed that there was no much discrepancy until we came to only one point here, that we have 270, 79. Then it changes to 170, 79. The two columns on this other end are the Bomas portal. And on this first lines are the server portals, the one that we have been saying open the servers. These are just the station streams, and these are the stations themselves. So if you're going through this, you will see the station stream, the votes obtained by Honorable Raila in the server, votes obtained by Honorable Ruto in the server, votes given to Honorable Raila in the IBC portal, and votes given to Honorable Ruto in the IBC portal. We say given because from the look of things, you can even tell from here that look at the flow of this data here, and then suddenly we have a 179 popping up when the whole values were just hundreds. It can tell you that there was some give and take happening here. So we see 100 and 100, and we can confirm from these two forms. So we are not here to just cook figures and give you, because we know the repercussion of doing that, especially to a nation as peaceful as Kenya.
Well, Mr.